in UC CSU applications, feel free to hop right off. I will not be offended. This is specifically for the applications. We're going to deep dive into the CSU and UC applications. All right. Thank you for staying here. I'm really impressed by everyone who's hanging in there. All right. So here's the agenda. I'm just going to try to speed past all of this. We're going to talk about both applications in detail. So again, quick little plug, californiacolleges.edu. You can also apply through here to the UC and CSU. They have actual links directly for you, so you can apply through there as well. All right, overview of the UC and CSU systems. The University of California is a public school system, and the California State of University system is also a public school in California. And these are basically in-state options for all California residents. So what that means is admission priority is given if you live in California to any of these schools. It doesn't mean you automatically get in if you live in California, which is a bummer, but it does mean that tuition is lower. You do have priority if you meet the minimum requirements. So we'll go over all of that as well. University of California, there are 10 schools. UC Berkeley, Davis, Irvine, LA, Merced, Riverside, San Diego, San Francisco, Santa Barbara, and Santa Cruz. If you've never heard of UCSF or UC San Francisco, that's fine because it only offers graduate and professional programs. So it doesn't have any undergraduate programs, so don't be alarmed if you've never heard of that school before. However, once you finish your undergrad, if you're interested, they do have graduate and professional programs. It is a very reputable school for a lot of like dentistry and doctors. So it has a lot of graduate programs for you. All right, CSU colleges, I'm not going to list them all right now for you because there are quite a bit. But when you have access to these slides, you can actually click through each one and visit each site. So if you would like, there are links directly to each school. All right. So in order to apply to the UCs and CSUs, you need to meet the A through G requirements. The A through G requirements are minimum requirements that you need to complete. The easiest way to meet these requirements is through coursework. So for coursework, I'm going to go over that really quickly, but there are alternative ways you can meet these requirements through test scores or college courses. So if you haven't met all of the college, the A through G courses, requirements, there are alternative ways to meet them. And this is when you want to meet with your high school counselor, make sure you're meeting all of the A through G requirements if you're planning to apply. There's also a very cool guide. If I don't skip through that slide, there is also we didn't link it. Okay. Well, let me find that really quick. If you Google A through G requirements, like A through G subject requirements, you will actually come across this page. It is pretty much a breakdown of all the A through G requirements, what they are. So A is for history, B is for English, and so on. And you will be able to see what the requirement is for high school courses. You can also hit that plus sign and look at what test scores will get you out of that requirement and what college courses will meet that requirement. Sometimes it's hard to decipher all of this. So if you have trouble reading through this and you need help kind of figuring out whether you've met all the A through G requirements, just talk to your high school counselor. They regularly check this and will help you. There's also a YouTube video that we've created for A through G. So I'm not going to talk too much about A through G requirements, but if you want, you can visit our YouTube channel and watch another 10-minute video of me explaining what this is if you want. But briefly, A through G requirements are 15 courses that you need to take. 11 of those courses need to be completed before senior year, before your last year. And you need to complete all of those courses with a C or above. So you do have to do well in those courses. And that's kind of a really quick summary of what those A to G requirements are. Listed here are the A through G requirements. So you need 2 years of history, 4 years of English, 3 years of math, 2 years of science, 2 years of the same world language, 1 year of a visual performing arts, and 1 other elective that is A through G approved. And you'll notice this is required. Recommended is an additional year of math, if possible, an additional year of science, another year of a world language, if possible. So usually when we say it's recommended, it means that the UCs really want to see this on your transcript. So if you are able to, if it fits in your schedule, I do recommend trying to fit those extra years, those extra recommended years in there. What you'll need for the application itself. So you will, again, need an unofficial copy of your high school transcript. You can request that from your teacher or from your high school counselor, and they'll send you a digital copy. Just have that while you're filling out any college application so that you don't have any mistakes. College transcripts, if you've taken any college courses, you'll need to enter that information as well. So it's nice to have it right in front of you so you can enter all the course titles and grades. If you've taken any advanced level courses during middle school, you'll also want to know, have a list of those courses and grades in front of you. A brag sheet is really nice. So a brag sheet is pretty much just you listing out your awards, your honors, extracurricular activities, volunteer activities. Since you'll be entering this information to all college campus or college applications, it's nice to have that information in front of you so you can enter them over and over again, depending on how many applications you submit. And test scores are optional. So if you have them, you can submit them. For UCs, they will not look at your test score for admissions purposes, but they will place you in a higher level course if you have a qualifying score. And you'll also need personal information. So your contact information like email, address, citizenship status, social security number, where you want to apply and majors, the annual income for your parents if you are a dependent, and your statewide student ID. So the student ID, not a lot of you will have it memorized. A lot of you probably don't even know what it is. But you can ask your teacher for your statewide ID or your high school counselor, or when you ask for that unofficial copy of your transcript, your SSID or your statewide student ID will be listed on your transcript. It's just your, you know, when we say there's a permanent record, it's your ID number that basically tracks all the courses you've taken throughout and where you've gone to school. So that is your kind of permanent record, if you will, that ID number, and that is on your transcript. All right, we're going to talk about UC admissions specifically now. So UC admissions, one, you'll have to have the A through G requirements completed. So we did talk about the A through G requirements. And for California residents, you have to have a 3.0 minimum GPA to apply. For non-residents, so here's where it's cool to live in California. Non-residents do have to earn a 3.4 GPA to apply. California residents, just a 3.0 is the minimum, which is pretty nice. All right. Thank you for that in the chat. The SSID is listed near your name at the top. Pretty sure. Yep, I'm pretty sure that's right too. So for your UC admissions, 3.0 GPA is the minimum. A little tricky thing about UCs is they recalculate your GPA. So even if you have a transcript, you have your GPA listed, they look at a completely different GPA. They actually calculate your GPA by looking at the A through G courses only. And they will only weigh a certain number of honors courses, which kind of makes me mad because if you take extra, they won't factor it into this GPA. They kind of want to give everyone a even playing field. So they do only award 8 extra GPA points for advanced level courses. And they don't look at freshman classes at all. They look at the A through G courses completed in 10th and 11th grade. So they do have their own guidelines for how to calculate that GPA. If you want, you can visit their site and kind of look at those requirements. But again, if you have a 3.0 minimum, I would say they just go ahead and apply. That is the link if you want to figure out your UC GPA for application purposes. There's a question in the chat. Do the UC CSUs require official community college transcripts? Yes. So, when you turn in your application, you do not need to have your official transcripts ready to go. It's nice to have an unofficial just so you enter all the information in correctly. You have to submit all official transcripts for college courses and for high school courses in July. So when you get accepted, and if you tell them you want to go, you have to verify everything. So all the test scores that you reported, all the courses and all the grades, that includes college and high school. And you will have to send in official records to verify everything. All right. Here's some more perks for being a California resident. There is a statewide guarantee. So if you rank amongst the top 9% of all California graduates, you are guaranteed a spot at a UC campus. With that being said, the statewide guaranteed, it's not, you still have to apply. So you can't just not apply and then say, I'm still the top 9% of all California graduates. I have a really high GPA. You don't automatically get in if you don't apply. You still have to apply to at least one UC campus. And then if you meet that requirement, you are guaranteed a spot anywhere. There's also something called the eligibility in local context, or the ELC, which means if you're the top 9% of your graduating class, then you are actually going to be guaranteed a spot if there's if there's room at another UC campus. So if you apply to, for example, UC Berkeley and you didn't get admitted, but you're at the top 9% of your high school, then you might be able to be guaranteed a spot at another campus that has an opening for you. Our schools do participate in ELC. So what that means is I submit the top juniors every year. I submit their GPA and all their information into the UC system. And when you apply your application, if you are one of the ELC students, it will tell you that you are one of the top 9% and that you qualify. And so that kind of is a nice security, like safety school option for you. If you apply to a UC and you don't get into the one you want, you are still offered a spot at a campus with room. I will say, just watching this program, a lot of the competitive schools do not participate. So Berkeley, UCLA, UC San Diego do not participate at all. So that means you aren't guaranteed a spot at those campuses. You should still apply. But if you don't get a spot at like UC Berkeley or UCLA, you could potentially get a spot somewhere else. But you will never be guaranteed a spot at one of those schools. They're too competitive. But usually watching this program, a lot of students are offered spots at UC Merced. So that's something to keep in mind. UC application links. So when you get these slides, there is a guide. I don't want to go through this guide with you, but if you download this quick reference guide, it is not quick. It is 86 pages of walking you through the admissions process. So it is a really big manual, as you can see, but it talks about everything. It talks about A through G requirements. It talks about whether you want to, if you want to transfer, there's a section for that. This doesn't apply to most of our students, but it also talks about international transcripts. It talks about applying, when to apply, all the fees, every single campus too, and what they do with AP exam scores. They talk about all of those. So if you are very interested in a UC campus, I would recommend downloading that guide. It walks you through the whole process in detail in 86 pages. But we're also going to give you a very good overview today. There is also an application link. It is $80 to apply to each campus. So you only fill out the application one time, but every single campus is $80. So just keep that in mind. Don't select all of them. I'm pretty sure parents would be mad if you did. But if you really don't know where you want to go, I think it's nice to kind of just fill out everything. If you do it, if you get in and you plan to go ahead and spend your parents $80. Don't get mad at me, parents, if you hear that. But I think it's worth it if you are really not sure where you want to go and you're considering all of the UCs, go ahead. But if there's schools that you definitely don't want to go to, like, for example, I would never apply to Davis because I don't want to smell cows all day or something. And don't apply to Davis if you're not going to actually go. All right, let's go through the actual application. There will be a about you section. So this is where all that personal information gets entered. You'll put your contact information. Do not make a mistake. Put a email that you will regularly check. So please do that at least. All notices from the school, whether you need to submit official documents, whether there's a mistake, whether you've been accepted, goes through, they use this contact information. So please make sure there's no mistakes there. You'll put all your demographics in there as well, and your household income, usually your household information, your parent information. So it's really good to fill this part out with a parent or guardian sitting next to you. So make sure that you make some time so that they can help answer all of these questions for you. You'll also want to, there's a section for choosing a campus and choosing your major and alternate majors. So you'll kind of choose your main major and a backup major in case you don't get into that major. Some majors are impacted, which means they're harder to get into. So that's why you pick a backup major. You'll also want to include, some majors require supplemental information too. So check whether your major is available on your campus. I'll pop that into the chat too. There is a nice little link. You can check your major specifically for each campus too. So you can type that in and check whether it's available, and then you can find more information, whether there's more requirements needed. Academic history. So this is where you pull out your high school transcripts and you enter everything you see on the high school transcript exactly as you see it onto this section. You'll report all your high school courses, list the course titles, the grades, the credits, all the dates, make sure they're accurate. You can also enter 7th and 8th grade classes. So not like 7th grade math or 8th grade math, but if you took a high school level or advanced level course, you'll want to list that there. Here's the big thing. Do not list your college classes here. I know sometimes your college classes are listed on your high school transcript. Do not list those in your high school part. There will be a college section specifically. As you can see, there's a colleges attended. You'll want to list that there. And then you'll list the college courses separately. So even if the college courses are on your transcript, do not put them in the high school section, put them in the college section. You'll want to separate all of that out. If you have any questions, talk to your high school counselor. If there's mistakes, definitely talk to your high school counselor and we'll get that fixed right away. There shouldn't be though. So test scores, you'll also enter that if you want to report your test scores. So if you have AP exams, for example, or SAT, ACT test scores, the ACT and SAT test scores will not be factored into admissions. So they'll see your score, but they won't do anything with that for admissions purposes. They won't see the perfect SAT score and say, yep, we definitely want you in. They'll kind of just say, that's great, but we're going to ignore that and we'll look at everything else. But the test scores that you report here will excuse you from, if they're high enough scores, you might be excused from general education requirements. So for example, for SAT, I think if you score above like a 650 or something, you get to test out of the English option. So it will vary depending on your campus, but they do excuse you from certain requirements. Any activities, awards. So if you have earned an award, you want to list that here. If you volunteer regularly or have any extracurricular activities, if you work, you want to list that as well. Scholarship programs, if you're applying to any, you can also put that in here as well. Keep in mind that the application is exactly what the admissions officer sees. So if you have anything to kind of add to this, the activities and awards really help paint a more robust picture of you as an applicant. So it's not just a GPA, it's not just the high school coursework, but now the admissions people are getting to know you a little bit more. So you do want to fill this part out if you have anything to add. And then there's personal insight questions. So the PMQs, as they're commonly referred to, I'm going to pop this in the chat too. All those questions are available for you already. So if you haven't started, you can get started and review those questions right there. There are 8 different questions and you only have to pick 4 to answer. Try to pick 4 that will help paint a better picture of who you are. So try not to pick topics where you're answering the same, like the different question with the same answer. Try to make sure that you have different answers for each of those questions, so the admissions offices will get to know you better as a student. They're short. They're very short questions. So the requirement is 300, the maximum is 350 words per response. So that's not a lot. It's like a paragraph that you get to write about yourself. And I know that seems short. It's a different way to do a personal statement, essentially. But read through those questions and find which questions speak to you, which questions really you think would highlight you as a student. And then at the end of it all, you'll just review and submit and make sure you kind of check everything. And there is a to-do section, so you can kind of see if you're missing anything as well that you need to fill in. So tip number one, the biggest tip for this application is the personal insight questions are not essays. Tell a story, use I statements, focus on the content, not style. This is not an English essay that you're submitting for, try not to have grammar and spelling mistakes. It makes something really hard to read if you have a lot of them, but you don't get penalized for grammar and spelling mistakes as long as the content comes through. Treat each question as if like it was an interview question and they're not essay prompts. Don't use like literary descriptive languages. Don't make it very flowery. If you don't use big SAT words in your normal writing, don't put that in a PIQ or a personal insight question. It will sound very weird when you're writing and using very floral language or vocabulary, because it doesn't sound like it's you anymore. Include details. So like who, why, what, where, when, how questions. Answer those questions as you're filling out the personal insight questions. And again, this section is meant for the admissions office to get to know you better as a person, so that you are not just a GPA, you're not just a high school transcript, you're more than that. So really try to share personal things that you're comfortable sharing with the admissions team, and so that they can get a better idea of who you are as a student, and they're trying to figure out whether you'll be a good fit for their school. And this is a really great way. It's a really important way for you to kind of paint that picture for them. All right, so the UC application, there is a comprehensive review. What that means is that the evaluators will look at multiple factors beyond just courses and beyond just grades to evaluate each application. So academic factors, obviously, they're going to look at your GPA. They're going to see if you went above and beyond what was required. So did you take performance in the number of courses you took to meet the A through G requirements? So did you take the bare minimum or did you go above and beyond? So they'll often look at your school and whether you took the most advanced courses offered at your school. So did you take college courses? Did you take AP courses? Did you go beyond just the minimum? So they'll look at all of those courses as well. They'll look at the ELC program, so the eligibility and local context. So if you're one of those top performing students at our school, they'll see if you are, and that might impact the admissions process for them. Academic opportunities at your school. So they'll look at the courses we offer and they'll look at the courses that you've taken. So did you take everything that you could have taken while at our school? Well, basically not every single course. Obviously you can't fit everything in your schedule, but they'll try to look at whether you really challenged yourself and whether you pushed yourself. And outstanding performance in one or more academic subject areas. So if you're not a straight A student, that's okay. They will look at whether, are you really strong at math, for example? Do you, maybe your English scores aren't that great, but your math scores are always just, you have the highest grades in all your math classes. You take really advanced math courses as well. So that could be a factor if you have a really strong strength in one subject area or more. Non-academic factors. So they'll also look at special projects that you're involved in, any awards, any other talents and achievements that you've gotten. Improvement in academic performance is a big one. So if you had a really rough ninth grade year or maybe one rough semester, that's okay. They will look at that. But what you want to make sure that if you do have one of those semesters where you didn't do well, you want to use those personal insight questions to kind of explain yourself. You know, if you had, for example, if something like if you experienced homelessness for a semester and that's why your grades weren't stellar, how are they going to know that about you if you don't put that in the application? It's up to you, obviously, how much you want to share with an admissions person. But the evaluator, every application is anonymous. Your name isn't tied to your application. They just read the application contents, not necessarily tie it to your name. Usually they kind of keep that all anonymous. But if you want to share that information, you know, if a close family member was sick and you had to take care of them, if you work another job and take care of siblings, if you experienced homelessness, if you know, if you had any additional information to add to why you had a semester or a year even with poor academic performance, or why there's improvement over the years, they want to know that. It can really change your application. How they view your application, for example, if you offer that background information. Participation in any of the educational programs available out there, any other additional societies or clubs out there, academic accomplishment in light of life experiences. So, you know, did you have to encounter anything challenging? You can kind of share that in the personal insight questions as well. So these are all non-academic factors. The UC application, because they don't look at test scores anymore, they are looking at every single one of these. It's not just one, it will be a very comprehensive review of your whole application as a whole. I have a question in the chat. What should I do if I had a semester and I did terribly due to personal health reasons, but I already submitted my application? Oh, that is a tough question. Okay, so you might want to reach out. Usually they don't let you edit the application, but what you can do is write to them, or actually reach out to it. I would recommend reaching out to admissions. Sometimes even if you've gotten a decision from them already, you can also submit additional information. For example, if you have a stellar semester and you want to show them like new grades or a new test score, you can submit that. If you have additional information that you didn't share in your personal insight question, reach out to admissions and just tell them you have additional information that could change your application and see if they'll let you edit. Usually it's pretty tough, but you can also appeal a admissions decision. So and if you've already submitted it, that's a little unfortunate. It's harder to edit a application. However, if you get that decision, you can appeal. I will say the appeals process is very difficult. They typically don't grant a lot of appeals, but if there is a extenuating circumstance, if there is something that will definitely change your application, how it's perceived, like an illness, something that you went through that you didn't explain, or for example, like just additional test scores or a change of grades that you want to submit, you can do that, and they could choose to evaluate your application again. Definitely get in touch with the admissions office. They will handle that in different ways. So definitely do that. All right, deadlines. UC applications, actually, you can view them, you can go into them August 1st, but the window to apply is only October 1st to November 30th. This is why I say don't procrastinate, because the applications are due November 30th. That's right after Thanksgiving break. I cannot tell you how many students wanted to try to fill out everything during Thanksgiving break and then got stuck and couldn't really get help until everyone came back. So don't wait till Thanksgiving break, till after. Start the application now. You can always pause and save the application and get all the help you need and then go back to it to finish out the rest during Thanksgiving break. That's fine, but don't procrastinate. Start it now because the application is open. FAFSA has moved. It used to be October 1st. The financial aid period is now in December, so we will have more information on financial aid when the state decides to share it, and then we'll have a workshop for every student. Just know that the deadline to apply to qualify for Cal Grant, the biggest grant, that's free money. So the biggest grant available in California is due. You want to turn in that financial aid application by March 2nd, and we will go over that. in around December, look out for financial aid information. And then decisions are made about around March through May. So you'll hear from the schools then. And all those official records do need to be submitted by July. So make sure you send requests to send transcripts over. I recommend requesting transcripts in advance. Remember, snail mail takes a while, takes a few days. So you do want to make sure that our school is sending the official transcripts directly to the UCs in time. Do not wait till June 30th to order your transcripts. They might not arrive in time. So make sure you, if you know where you want to go, fill out that transcript request by early June, and we will make sure transcripts are sent to the colleges. All right, costs. So it can be pretty expensive. It's about 14,000 a year for tuition only. So if you're living on campus or living at home with your parents, that's the sweetest deal, because usually that means your room is free and food is free. So just keep in mind the tuition can be pretty high. If you plan on commuting, there is obviously transportation costs involved. So this is a breakdown of the average cost for each California resident. So if you want, this is pretty much the next step to being an adult, is worrying about finances. So if you do want a breakdown of the average attendance, this is a good way to kind of have that discussion with your parent or guardian. Think about what kind of student loans, if any, that you want to take out. If you want to start working and saving, these are all things to consider. And again, this is just kind of like the sticker price. This doesn't account for scholarships and grants. So in December, we will talk about financial aid. It could take a big chunk of that. A fun statistic for you is about 54% of UC undergraduates actually pay $0 in tuition. So $14,000 is a lot, but almost more than half of those undergrads actually don't pay tuition at all because of financial aid, because there is a need and there's a lot of Cal grants available to California residents. So just keep that in mind. Non-residents, if you don't live in the state of California, it is quite a bit more expensive. It's about $32,000 more, $34,000 more. So just, again, perks of living in California. There is something called the entry-level writing requirement. For those of you applying to the UCs, they just need to verify that you are able to write at a college level. So this is where I said they don't look at your test scores. However, they will absolutely use your test scores if you have them. So if you scored a 680 on the SAT part of the reading and writing section, you don't have to take another, like, you can skip out of this English requirement. That means you don't have to take an English course. Again, in college, unless it's part of your major, but there is a minimum writing requirement. And if you take a AP exam, for example, and you have a qualifying test score, you can also pass out of this requirement. Another way is if you've already taken a college English course. If you haven't done so already, you have time. You can still take a college English course next semester and meet this writing requirement if you don't want to do this writing requirement while in college. Just personally speaking, it's a lot cheaper to take care of this writing requirement in high school than it is at the UC. You saw that tuition cost. It does cost a little bit more to fulfill this requirement. Usually this requirement is fulfilled by taking another college level course. It could be a college level course, writing English course that is supported. So there might be additional like tutoring involved to help you get to that writing level. You need to be at the college level. But if you don't want to go through that requirement while at a UC, you can meet that requirement with a AP test score, a SAT test score, or a college course with a C or better. So there's different ways that you can meet that requirement. It's called ELWR if you want more acronyms in your life, but it's the entry level writing requirement. And there is more information on the UC site if you want to figure out whether you will qualify to meet that requirement. If you don't, that's okay. If you don't have any of these test scores, that's okay. It just means you'll have to take another English course while at the UC before you can take I think this English class just has to be taken within the first year at the UC, so it's fine. It just takes up one of your college course options. Before I move on, any questions about the UCs in general? None? Are you still with me? I feel like some of you might be asleep because this is a long presentation. All right, CSUs. So we're going to talk about CSUs now. The requirements are very similar to the UCs. A through G courses are required again. So you do need to complete 15 A through G requirements. 11 of those have to be completed by the end of junior year. There's a lower GPA requirement, so it is a 2.5 or above for California residents. If you don't meet that requirement, if you're hovering around a 2.0 or 2.49, your application will still be reviewed and you might have to submit supplemental factors. What supplemental factors are, they will vary from campus to campus. So you can actually check what they are for each school, but you might have to, for example, submit a test score now if you don't have a qualifying GPA. So you might have to meet different requirements, additional requirements if you don't meet that minimum GPA. But most students will qualify through A through G coursework and that minimum GPA. Again, that GPA is calculated very similarly to the UC GPA. They are looking at the 10th and 11th grade A through G courses for that one. Okay, let me go a little bit more detail into supplemental factors. When you go to that website, you can search for the campus you're interested in and look at what those supplemental factors are. If you don't have a high enough GPA, they will look at the number of courses you've taken that were A through G approved. So did you go above and beyond the minimum requirements? They might look at, for example, some engineering programs, might look at your math and science GPAs. And they will look at household income, extracurriculars, work experience, first generation status as well. So if you're a first time college goer in your family, that can actually have a very big impact on your college application as well. For example, Sac State actually requires local area applicants to have a 2.5 GPA. So if you live in Sacramento County, El Dorado, Nevada, Placer, San Joaquin, Sierra, Solano, Yolo counties, you will actually be able to qualify. That minimum GPA is 2.5. If you live outside of that, it's actually a higher GPA. So what Sacramento State has done is they prioritize local students in the area, and then anyone in California outside of that, those counties actually have to meet a 2.75 GPA, and then anyone out of state has to meet a 3.0 GPA. So they actually prioritize where you live. I have a question. Does CASP count? So this is a really fun question, actually. So just like the UC system, they look for a minimum writing requirement before you can take all the other college courses. They want you to meet that writing requirement by the first year that you're there. For the CSUs, they will look at your transcripts. So if you have similar test scores, like on the SAT or AP test, or if you've taken a college course, they will look at that for math and English placement. So they will look at your test scores. And if you've taken college classes, they will look at that and place you into the next level math course or the next level English course. If you don't have any of those, so if you don't have a test score like that, they actually will look at your CASP score to kind of figure out your placement for math and English. So if you don't have a college course, if you've never taken an SAT test or an AP exam, if you don't have those scores, they will then default to looking at your CASP. They'll look at your high school transcript. They'll also look at your CASP score. So if you have like a higher math or English score, they'll kind of place you into like a English class that maybe needs additional support. So they might say you could take this English class, but your score for CASP was a little bit low for English. So we'll actually have you take an additional support class. It's kind of like an additional tutoring class for English just to make sure you're successful. So depending on when you apply, what you're coming in with, so there's test scores that can help verify whether you are at a college level for math and English. That will determine where you get placed for the next level English and math course, if that makes sense. So CASP score doesn't count for admissions, but it could help with placement if you don't have any of those other test scores or college courses. I hope that answers your question. Tip number 2, impacted majors. It's getting tougher to get into some majors. Impacted just means they're very popular. A lot of people are applying, and when a lot of people apply, that means it can be pretty competitive sometimes. So for the UCs and for the CSUs, there are additional requirements for impacted majors, and you are responsible to find them and figure all of those out yourself. So for example, if you apply to the CSUs, if you go visit their website, you can kind of check which majors are impacted, and then you'll be able to kind of figure out whether an addition is needed or a personal statement. The CSUs do not have a personal statement requirement. However, some campuses and some majors might have that personal statement requirement. So depending on where you're applying, what you're trying to study, you might have additional requirements. All right, so just like the UCs, there is a very comprehensive light read. It's 60 pages, so a little bit better than the UCs, but there is also a very thorough guide that walks you through the applications. And if you are confused on how to enter classes or your personal information, this guide will walk you through all of that. So it's nice to have your high school transcript ready, and it's also kind of nice to have this guide pulled up just so that you are able to see what those, how to fill out the application correctly. There's also a $70 fee per campus. So you apply one time and you send your application, but every time you send that application, it's $70. And let's see. All right, let's go over the application. So it's very similar to the UCs. There is a personal information section. So you're going to put all your contact information, your family information. This is a good place for you to sit next to your parents or your guardian to fill this information out, especially if you're a dependent. Academic history. So again, you'll self-report all of those high school courses, all the grades, just like the UC application. If you've taken any college courses, do not fill that into the high school section. Make sure your college courses are listed in the college section. I know you can't see that right now, but when you get into the application, there is a specific area for high school courses. There's a specific area for college courses. Make sure you're filling all of that out correctly. All right, and then you'll also fill out supporting information. So awards, honors, scholarships, anything else if you've been published. You can also put that here. Program materials. So again, the program materials is for any additional information that you might want to submit. So if you're applying to a CSU major that's impacted or a campus that has a lot of applicants, you will have to provide like a personal statement or additional test scores, for example, and this is where you would upload that. You can also upload an unofficial copy of your transcript. So make sure that you have a digital copy of your transcript ready to go and you can submit that. Review and submit, and don't skip through the review part. Definitely make sure your application is error-free. Application dates to be aware of, very similar to the UC. So again, their public school systems in California, they're very similar. So application window does open October 1st. So it's open now. You can start applying. Even if you're not sure yet, just start the application, get a feel for it, start putting in all that information. The application is due on November 30th. That gives you time to gather all the information. Again, financial aid opens in December. Be on the lookout for financial aid workshops from our high school counselors. We will go over that. And notifications are coming out around February, March for CSU applications. And official transcripts are due by July 15th, but those deadlines might vary depending on the campus. So just double check. Usually all official records do have to be in by July. So July 1st, I usually aim for July 1st just because I want to have a buffer. I don't want, there to be an issue with the mailing system and then for transcripts to arrive a little late. I don't want that. So usually I just try to aim to order everything and send official records in by July 1st. All the records do have to be made. So any test scores, any college courses, all high school transcripts, they all have to be official. That means you have to order it directly from College Board. If it's an SAT score, if it's an AP test score, you have to order the transcript directly from our school to be mailed to the CSU or UC. But usually you've already chosen where you want to go. You've already notified the school, and so you'll oftentimes order all official documents and send them all to that one school, and all the test scores and all college records as well. All right, so CSUs are a little bit cheaper than the UCs. They're about $5,700 for tuition a year. I believe they are raising the prices. I'm so sorry, guys, to be the bearer of bad news, but they are raising prices for next year and all subsequent years after. So they haven't raised tuition costs in quite a while, but they are starting to now. You'll see little increments. There is also a average cost breakdown by campus. So if you want to get campus costs, you can actually have a breakdown of what campus you're interested in, and then you can kind of look at a breakdown of all of those expenses, and I will put that in the chat so you can kind of figure out if you're interested in kind of looking at the average cost for each campus. It will be a little different, but again, if you're living at home or on campus or off campus, it actually has a chart to break down everything. If you're living off campus, again, your transportation costs might be a little bit higher than usual. So keep that in mind. If food and housing is quite a lot, but if you're living with your parents, guess what? It's probably zero. So just keep that in mind. I would definitely sit down with a parent or guardian and kind of figure out finances. Don't make any decisions until the financial aid packages have come, because financial aid packages will cover a lot of tuition usually. So that's something to talk about and consider. We will have, there is upcoming Cal State application workshop. So if you haven't started your application yet and you want help, you can actually register for a workshop. I'm going to put that here. It is hosted by San Jose State University. You can kind of fill out all your information, and they are hosting multiple workshops throughout October and November. I would not wait, like that November 29th one, it makes me nervous because that's very last minute. I would try to attend earlier on so you can ask your questions, and they'll give you a much more thorough breakdown than I have over the application, and kind of give you tips and tricks as well. So you can sign up for one of those workshops if you want to, and you haven't started your application. Again, you want to take note of our College Board codes that link basically our school to your application, and make sure when you do link it, you'll be able to pull up like our school's A through G list. So that kind of helps you fill out your application and makes it easier for the college to identify you. Some students might have the same name as you, so it really helps them make sure that your application is tied to you. So make sure you have those codes written down. If you forget them, it's okay. Reach out to your high school counselor. They'll have it as well ready for you. And again, final plug for californiacolleges.edu. It's a really good tool to kind of figure out what you want to do after high school, scholarship opportunities, and even how to find a major or college that you actually are interested in applying to. It's a really nice resource. You can also launch your UC and CSU application through this portal. And if you do that, it helps us track where you are in that application process. And then the counselors can also look at that and reach out if you need support. All right, last words of wisdom, pretty much be yourself. Try to share as much about yourself to make you, so that evaluators can really get a sense of who you are. For example, everyone in your life knows who you are, but when you're putting that on paper, make sure that that comes across. Do your research, know what programs you're going to apply to, where you want to apply to, what those requirements are. Make sure that you have all those deadlines marked in your calendar. Know your strengths. So if you're not sure what your strengths are, ask the people around you. You're the worst the worst critic of yourself. So sometimes you just want to ask the people around you, like, what are your strengths? If you're not sure what they are, I'm pretty sure they'll have a long list for you. And relax, just relax. It is scary to apply to colleges. It's scarier to kind of wait around for college admissions decisions, but you will end up where you need to be, and you will absolutely, I promise you, all of you will get to where you need to go. If you don't get into your dream school, that's okay. It's okay to go to another school, and then you'll still eventually reach your goal as long as you keep working at it. No path is a straightforward path. So just relax and reach out if you have fun. Thank you so much for staying here for 2 whole hours. This was a long